Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, March 26, 2024. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Administration and Finance Committee meeting for Richland County. This meeting will now come to order. Madam Clerk, take the roll, please.
Pugh,
Here.
McBride,
Here.
Livingston,
Here.
Weaver,
Here.
Walker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Also, I'd like to recognize my colleagues who are present this evening who do not serve on this committee, but nevertheless they are here this evening. That will be Councilwoman Gretchen Barron, Councilman Jason Branham, and Councilwoman English. Glad that you all could be with us this evening. Next item on the agenda is item 2, approval of the minutes from the February 27th, 2024 meeting. Oh, I am so sorry. I assume that Chairwoman Mackey was on this committee, and I committed the cardinal sin by not recognizing my chair. So thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for being present tonight as well.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Very sardonically. All right. Item number 2, I entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Present.
Yes.
We're voting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 3, approval of the agenda. Mr. Brown, any changes, additions, or deletions?
No requested changes.
All right. There being none, I entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Also, let the record reflect that Councilwoman Newton has joined us this evening as well. Good evening to you, Ms. Newton. Next item on the agenda is item 4, items for action. Item 4A, animal care. It's the Animal Care Ordinance Revision. Mr. Brown, anyone here who can present on that?
Yes, sir, I do. I have actually both Director Haynes, who I'll ask to present to the council on this particular item, and certainly ACA Jensen, as they were two working on this particular item. Director Haynes, if you will approach the podium, please.
Good evening. Yes, you are recognized.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I'm Sandra Haynes, Director of Animal Service, and before you have the Animal Care Ordinance revisions. That's Chapter 5 of the Richland County Ordinance. And these revisions serve as a foundation for ensuring the welfare and safety of both our human and animal residents. By working with our stakeholders, we have carefully crafted the ordinance revisions that reflect our shared values and commitment to creating a thriving community. Throughout this process, let us remember the importance of balance, that's balancing the need for public safety with the rights of animal welfare. The key changes are we're changing the title from animals and fowl to animals. This is basically a chapter reorganization. We have additional definitions in the ordinance. We've separated the pet license from the commercial pet breeder. We revised animal care generally. We've deleted the community cat diversion program. We've added a dangerous or vicious section. We've also added a section for tethering, and also added language to allow the animal care department to request petition hearings on animals, even if they're not in the custody of animal care. Okay?
Thank you, Director Haynes. Questions or comments from anybody? Right?
Director Haynes, thank you so much for all the work that you've done for the animal care services. My question is, you have deleted, and you know my question already, don't you?
Community cat?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you, you've deleted that section?
Yes.
Could you tell me in a few words what's deleted that's important?
Well, it's deleted because it was called the Community Cat Diversion Program. We no longer have the program. As soon as the ordinance was passed in 2017, the shelter lost its veterinarian. So we were no longer able to pick up the cats, take them to the shelter to get spayed and neutered, and put them back out. Therefore, that program basically went away. What we do now is we offer citizens vouchers that they can get. They can trap the cats and take them back, well, take them to the Humane Society or either Palmetto Lifeline, get them spayed and neutered, and take them back out to the community. The vouchers are offered to us from the Animal Mission. Whenever we need them, they'll drop them off, or either we can go pick them up. We'll mail them to citizens, or citizens can come to our office and pick them up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm going to be voting no because there are a few more questions that I have that I would like to address to the director, but I don't want to take up the time now for it, and I don't want it to go on the consent
Okay.
item. Okay.
And you're voting no to,
Well, actually, Director Haynes, we
Okay.
haven't voted yet.
okay,
I
She
said,
just says how she intends.
I said I will be voting no.
That's all.
Not that I'm against the recommendations that you are making, but I don't want it to go on the consent item, as a consent item right now, because I have some more questions I
Okay.
need to ask, and I don't want to use this time for that.
Mr. Livingston and then Mr. Weaver.
Are there any changes in here regarding to our policies regarding spayed and neutering of animals?
no, we did not include that in this ordinance revision.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 23, if I'm understanding this right, it seems like the section on tethering is being deleted?
No, that's being added.
Oh, it's being added.
It's
So the
being
orange
added.
is new stuff.
All of that is new. Tethering is new.
Oh, okay.
And we're
I had it the
adding
other way
tethering
around.
because I know many of you have been getting probably emails about dogs being tied to trees or
Okay.
tires or whatever. So we are adding that to it.
So you're adding it. Okay,
We're
well, I feel
adding
better
it
about
and
that
making
now.
it clear how dogs should be tethered.
Okay, great. Okay, good. That was my only question, Mr. Chairman.
I have a question, and I'm not sure this question is more appropriate for you or Mr. Brown. But my question is, why is this item on the A&F committee agenda as opposed to, not that I'm trying to throw it off on D&S, but when I think A&F, I think financial. So, any reason why it's on our agenda as opposed to D&S?
That's a good question. Is that particular item covered? I think it may be a certain coverage. Go ahead. We have Assistant to the County Administrator, Ashia Myers, if she can address that specifically, Mr. Chair.
It's not a problem for me. That's the first thing that jumped out at me when I saw it. Ms. Myers, you recognized.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ashia Myers, Assistant to the County Administrator. Per council rules, if it involves an ordinance, it becomes in front of the Administration and Finance Committee. Thank you.
Questions? Comments? Recognize Ms.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work. I've been one of those council members who's been blowing your phone up because there are some dogs in my neighborhood that people just wanted to become members of their family. I do have a question about the tethering, and I'm just curious to know why the time 2 hours was selected. I mean, certainly I can understand why you wouldn't want a dog tethered for, in perpetuity, which are the complaints that I got, but just thinking about, my dog's not tethered, but, why the 2 hour time frame, just thinking about things that homeowners may have to do and how long they take.
We chose 2 hours because in order to enforce it, we have to be able to see it. Any longer than 2 hours, probably is just a little bit too much for enforcement purposes. Like if we had to stay out there and watch something for 2 hours, and actually we're still not going to watch for 2 hours, but just with that, that might be enough for us to be able to enforce. Because we do know that in some different ordinances, they have maybe a 9-hour period, 8-hour period that is totally unenforceable. Because nobody's going to be there for 8 or 9 hours to watch and see if a dog is actually tethered that long.
That some of my constituents would.
Well, yes, ma'am.
But, so noted, and so I'll just think on this before it comes to the next meeting, but I'm imagining that the purpose of adding tethering is to make sure that the animal is being cared for and taken care of, and not just left to wither on the tether, so to speak. At the same time, if there's a responsible pet owner and they're tethering their pet, I would presume they're tethering it for a reason, for a safety issue or for whatever it may be. But, you know, if you have an hour meeting or I mean, I think that we're doing the 2 hours for our convenience, but not necessarily taking into account situations that a responsible pet owner might face. And so I just have a little bit of concern about that. So I'll think about that as it comes to full council.
Okay.
Questions? Right.
Yes, no, I just want to acknowledge Tish Gonzalez from my office. She's a senior assistant county attorney who spent many hours working on this ordinance, so she is present here today, so I just want to acknowledge her work in this ordinance.
And Director Haynes, it's a pleasure to meet you. You've gotten several emails from me about dogs at large, you know, in my district. So it's good to be able to put a face with the name, and appreciate your service to the county as well.
Thank you.
All right, entertain a motion. I need a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Move to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 4B, Community Planning and Development, Building Inspections Division, Town of Eastover Intergovernmental Agreement. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. We do actually have the building official in the audience. I'm going to ask Mr. Mike Zapp to come down and cover this item with you.
Yep, you recognize, sir.
Committee members, council, Mr. Brown. The Mayor Robinson from Eastover approached us a little while back. She was reelected, which in turn was, I think, a good thing. She approached us to reinstate or develop a new intergovernmental agreement for their building department. They're unable to have a building official, which by law you have to have one, to conduct construction activities in the jurisdiction that you're in. So she approached us to pick up the plan review, the actual permitting, and the inspection processes that would need to be completed for a house or a commercial building to have what we call a certificate of occupancy, a CO. So we sat down with her. We have had an IGA in the past with Eastover. It's usually very little activity. In your packet showed 2 years. One was about $1,500 or like 25 permits, maybe 15 permits in 2015 or 19 year. So with that, this IGA is only going to pick up those 3 items. The zoning portion of it will still fall upon the town of Eastover. And what will happen is they'll send us a document saying that according to their zoning, that structure can be there at that particular property. And then from there, we will pick it up to get it inspected and the CO issued. The only difference between a normal IGA and what you have in front of you is the time or length of the IGA. After talking with Mr. Jensen and Mayor Robinson and their legal, it was thought best to go ahead and change it to keep it for ever, infinity, until such time either of the jurisdictions no longer want to participate, then they give each other 6 months notice. And this helps facilitate the small town because when they have a reelection, a new mayor came in. What happened last time is the new mayor didn't really want to be part of it, even though it was a required by law thing to do to protect the residents. So this kind of keeps it going. They don't have to jump right on board and say, okay, we want to change this. So that's the thinking behind that, and that's the only change in the IGA as far as the building IGA for the town of Eastover. Any questions?
Questions, comments from the body? You recognize Mr. Brown?
The fee schedule on page 65, that's the schedule for inspection services.
Yes, sir. That is the Richland County fee schedule, and that is part of the IGA.
So does the fee schedule set to follow the county's fee schedule as time passes, or is this locking us in for infinity and
No,
beyond?
this is they're adopting our fee schedule. So our fee schedule changed, they would debrief that fee schedule. So if at that time they say, no, we no longer want it to because of the fee schedule, they could just give us notification to go ahead and cancel that
Okay.
IGA.
Thank you.
Okay.
Questions? None, I entertain a motion.
Second.
Moved to properly second. Any discussion? Being none, Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes?
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 4C, Community Planning and Development. This is Cemetery Protection Ordinance. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to actually ask if you would recognize Mr. John McKenzie from Conservation. Mr. McKenzie, if you could come forward to the podium. Oh, you handed off to Quentin Epps. They did a switcheroo. I wasn't planning on that, Chair, but I'll allow it.
I apologize, Mr. Brown.
Epps, you have the dubious distinction tonight of talking about repositories for human remains. So you are recognized.
Thank you, sir, and council. Recently, we've become aware of grave sites in the county which are being destroyed, and the Conservation Commission recommends that we pass this ordinance to strengthen, is it not working? Strengthen our ordinance so that we can increase the penalties and do a better job of protecting our grave sites in the county. And it basically just allows for the imposition of civil penalties in addition to the state penalties, and it would be amended to Section 18 of the existing ordinance.
Questions, comments? Body you recognize?
I really appreciate the work you guys are doing on this ordinance, and Mr. McKenzie, I know he's been heavily involved, and certainly we've had dealings in my district recently which really bring this to light and make it very timely. So just really happy to see this on the agenda, to see a draft ordinance in front of us. Feels very timely for me. On the last sentence, this is talking about if there are known or probable grave sites. The very last sentence of section 1 says, no further ground disturbing activities shall commence until authorization to proceed is issued by the state and county in accordance with state law. So I guess just as a practical matter and administration of it, should we state what would trigger the county to then authorize proceeding? Right now, it just sounds like it's left wide open to whatever county staff person, I guess, might issue an authorization.
I'm gonna ask Gio Mr. Price, what he thinks about this, because he's been around with these codes a lot longer than I have, and I'm gonna defer to his opinion. I mean, this is generally what we do is we leave it up to the staff to decide. Once they decide if you've disturbed the grave site, and then, oh, goodness gracious, there's a grave site here we didn't know about, then you stop everything until we decide what kind of grave it is. and that
It's
sort of
things
thing.
like, is there a grave there? And if so, what kind of a grave is it? I mean, so those are things that we could just put in the ordinance, and then it would feel a little bit more solid as far as what people dealing with us would need to understand. That would be the expectation there. And just kind of along with that, the other part is where it says that you got to hold until the state says go. Are we sure that the state is willing to issue something that authorizes proceeding? What if they say we're not in the business of issuing authorizations?
Well, and this was drafted by legal, that there are state penalties in place. However, we feel like a lot of times the county is a lot more present. And so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to put some penalties in from the county. But this, once we get involved, then we get the state involved. And then their archives and history, they're going to come over and they're going to say, well, you know, this is an Indian grave, or this is a whatever grave, and you need to properly either move it and then, or put it back and then, you know, put a boundary around it and not disturb it. And so that it would be us working with them to get the final approval.
So just being at the committee stage, I don't want to have us be here forever, but these are just things that I would ask to be further contemplated as we potentially move this up to the full council level. Maybe we could articulate some of these things a little bit further. And of course, be happy to hear from Mr. Wright if the chair would allow it, and if Mr. Wright had anything you wanted to share, his thoughts on the draft.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. As far as the state coming in, I think they are the experts to make the determinations as to what it is or what it isn't. So I think it is appropriate for them to come in to determine, so, okay, what this is, or determine that, hey, this is this particular type of site, so, and this is what's required. So I think that's necessary for that. And I think that's why the county and the state will work together, because it's their duty to make those determinations.
That's all I have. Yeah, just, you know, if we could continue to think about that, and I'll be happy to engage with staff between now and a potential full council vote.
What I'm getting from Mr. Price is that we can amend it to add in some more specific language.
Yes.
I'm sorry. We can amend it and we can bring it back.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly second. Any further discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is 4D, Utilities, Greenlake Gravity Sewer Rehabilitation. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to ask Director Davis to present this item. He has another unofficial name, but we're going to leave that for a non-committee meeting.
A man of the year or something like that?
Good evening. May I be recognized?
Yes, you are recognized, Mr. Davis.
It's always good to be here with y'all. I love seeing the smiles on your faces. I can probably summarize this in no less than 40 minutes. I think. I'm kidding. I got 4 points that I would like to address this with. You know, first of all, this is going to be a 75% grant with CDBG. It's continuing the trend that we've had in utilities lately, where I think we're approaching about $13 million in grant money, and this would be another big win for us in utilities. It keeps our rates, you know, down when we can get free money, and of course that's something that we're really looking for. Always opportunities to get some grants, and this is a perfect opportunity. We were able to find an LMI neighborhood, you know, low to moderate income neighborhood, where we could actually go in and make a difference in an older system. So that's number one. I got 4 points, kind of like a preacher up here. So point number 2, I'd like to just talk about these pipes. They're almost 50 years old, and that's kind of a, you're getting into that age of where you start losing, the age of the pipe starts to deteriorate over time. And that's not all of them, but some of them do. And in this case, we're going to identify the ones that are, and we're going to replace them with this project. And this project, using trench nest technology, will add another 50 years to the pipes that we rehabilitate. And number 3, this is one for you, Mr. Weaver. This is the cost savings. So when you look at digging up an existing pipe and you do trenchless technology, you're going to save, I thought that it would be 125% more. But last week I talked to some significant development folks that have done a lot of this work. And they're saying now that with the shortage of construction personnel and all of the money that's coming down the pike, that everybody's just basically picking and choosing what they want to do. And he told me that you're saving 300%, not 125%, not because of materials, not because of shortage, but because of workforce. And so that means that for every dollar we spend, we save 3 in this type of technology. So it's a great technology. We've done it. We did it with CDBG money in a Quail Creek project we did recently with some great results. And the 4th thing is there'll be significant cost savings, because right now we're seeing the pump station for that particular neighborhood runs about 60% longer when it rains, which means the pipes are receiving rainwater, which is not what they're designed for, which reduces the capacity, increases the run time, and causes potential problems for us in the future. So this would reduce that I&I and would see significant electricity savings. I don't have those numbers, but it's 60% more. That's every time it rains. So that's pretty much my summary.
Davis, any questions or comments? All right.
Right.
Move for approval.
Oh, if I may.
Well, let's get to the discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Can I get a second? It's been moved to properly second. Discussion, Ms. Newton, you're recognized.
Thank you. If I may, I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege, I can speak English, to applaud our staff. I think that the way that our staff treated this grant was a model of how local government is supposed to work, and an example of staff going above and beyond. Initially, our CDBG staff noted that they had grants that they could award. They went out to our county divisions and said, hey, what would be a good project for this? Mr. Davis was ready. He had his list and his priorities where he knew that this neighborhood that you might have guessed is in District 11, he knew that this neighborhood had a lot of problems with sewer. And sewer is one of those things, even you would agree, Mr. Davis, you don't really want to think about. It's best when it never crosses your mind. And so he knew that there was a problem. Staff went out there, they met with the community, they got community buy-in, they knocked on doors, they worked with neighborhood leaders, they answered every question, created every communication, every flyer, talked to every person, stayed late at every meeting, including some meetings where somebody might have spoken a wee bit longer about the sewer than we absolutely had to, but still it was a collaboration project. And so I really want to thank not just our utility staff, but our grant staff, our PIO staff, and whoever else was involved, because they have done great work for this community. There was a survey that we had a certain number of households had to respond to. It would not have happened without our employees doing their absolute best. And because of that, they've delivered their best to our constituents. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Any additional comments? Discussion? None, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 4D, Department of Public Works, Engineering, Springwood Lakes High Hazard Potential Dam Rehabilitation. Mr. Brown or Mr. Wright?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. We actually have the county engineer who maybe wants to go first, and I think county attorney will come in related to any items associated with the presentation, unless you would like something else to happen.
Mr. Chair,
Recognize
Oh.
Mr. Wright.
I do think that this is an item we will have to discuss in executive session.
So, we get a motion immediately, or can we, guess, listen to some of the presentation from Ms. Fuller? Or what's most appropriate?
I would probably like to advise council, I don't have a problem with her being back there in executive session, but I would like to advise council, and then she can speak if necessary.
I need a motion to go into executive session on this item.
So move, Mr. Chair.
All right, it's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, we're now in executive session. Entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So move, Mr. Chair. Second.
Moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I'll let the record reflect that we went into executive session regarding item 4E. No action was taken, and the county attorney provided legal advice. All right, so back to item 4E. Where's Mr. Brown's, Ms. Fuller? Ms. Fuller,
Yes, sir, she's
you're
here.
recognized.
Thank you. Good evening. This item relates to the Springwood Lakes community. There, if you're familiar with it, there are actually 3 small ponds in a row. They're stream fed, and they lead to a larger body of water that is referred to as the Springwood Lake. That is a high hazard dam. The dam itself was in 2015 suffered damages to the dam, so it no longer impounds water at the capacity it did. High hazard itself simply is a category associated by FEMA. It means that if the dam breaches, that it could cause, or is likely to cause, a loss of life and severe damage to property. This grant is the second grant that the county has accepted in relationship to this community. And the request in front of you is that we're seeking pre-approval of the engineering services that are currently out for bid. The reason for that is because there is a timeline associated and deadlines from FEMA with this grant. FEMA has made it clear during the grant application process there will be no extensions. So if those deadlines are not met, then we would be obligated to repay the money.
Ms. Fuller, I have a question for you. So this is the second grant, with respect to, I guess, the rehabilitation of this dam. I believe I heard you say, right?
Yes, sir.
So with respect to the first grant, do you know if those dollars have been utilized already? And if so, what were those dollars utilized on, to be exact?
Yes, sir. This is off the top of my head, so I'm rounding a bit. There was $500,000 total. Almost $200,000 was spent on design services that were procured already. The other $200,000 is being used as the match for this current grant that we're discussing. So that's leaving us with right about $100,000 left.
Already in the process, it seems, right?
Yes,
All right, but no construction, no work has been done.
correct. No construction has been done.
Okay, all right. Additional questions, comments? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, next item on the agenda, 5, adjournment. Need a motion.
Move for adjournment.
I'm sorry.
Chairman Walker, we voted, but we don't have a motion. There was no motion to approve this item.
I didn't hear one.
Okay, we'll run it back. Entertain a motion to approve item 4E.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve item 4E.
Second.
Move to properly second. Any additional discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk.
Pugh,
Yes, again.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, next item, 5, adjournment.
So moved.
Second, move to properly second. No discussions needed, Madam Clerk.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We are adjourned. Yay.